Okay, a little bit of a glitch there, but we're back. Everything's looking good. So we're following it right now. Not as many tornadoes as the models were indicating the other day, but that certainly is a good thing. We are following a tornado warned storm south of Bowling Green, Kentucky. It already, the tornadic part of the storm crossed the interstate 65 and 165 on the south side of Bowling Green. Still just a radar indicated tornado. Luckily, it's passing south of the city here. And most of this worst part of the storm is also south of I-65 at the moment. Also south of Smith's Grove in Kentucky. The rotation that I've been looking at was the strongest right when the storm got warned between Rockfield and Woodburn. You'll see it right there between Rockfield and Woodburn. It's now broadened out quite significantly south of Polkville, between Polkville and Alvaton. I said that name. Generally headed towards the area by Pondsville, Red Cross, and south side of Polkville. Be in your tornado precaution areas. That is the only tornadic storm at the moment. We were watching a storm on the Kentucky and Tennessee line that had a tornado observed a while back. That now is a hailstorm near Pineville, Kentucky. Although it's starting to shrink up a little bit. It's not looking as good as it was. Still has some broad rotation, so it's one to watch. Let's see if it can try and wrap around and tighten up a little bit. It may be something of interest here north of Meldrum, between Pineville and Meldrum. Closer to Pineville, though, your hail core is right in here. Pretty close south side of Pineville. And then, yeah, any rotation would be on that south side of the storm on the north side of Meldrum. So one to watch. This had a tornado warning a while back. It's in a slightly less favorable environment in eastern Kentucky. A while back, late afternoon, the Storm Prediction Center actually trimmed back the moderate risk. And I want to check, and while we're a little bit lull in the tornado coverage, I just want to check any updates to the convective outlook. Still a hatched risk pretty much in this whole area here. And we have tornado watches all the way from west central Ohio, south of Lima, and just north side of Columbus, all the way down towards the south side of Tupelo, Mississippi. So a busy night for severe weather. Luckily, we haven't had the tornadoes that the models were showing as late as earlier this morning. Back to the Cincinnati area. Big storm here now on the east side of Cincinnati. Out 32. If you have any interest going east of Cincinnati, I would hold off for a little bit. And especially if you're on 275. 275 between the Ohio River and the Blue Ash Loveland area just does not look good right now. That is a big time hail core. It's being warned for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, that is still a nasty storm. This was the storm that basically over the airport in northern Kentucky around Florence was tornado warned. Had pretty good rotation at a point west of Florence. It's now crossed through the Cincinnati suburbs on the Kentucky side, and it's now the Ohio River on this map is right in here. So you have Kentucky over here, and then the storm is now in Ohio. So the Ohio River actually comes up from the southeast and then makes a bend at Cincinnati and flows more west and southwest. But yeah, the Ohio River technically flowing south, but in an actual direction it flows actually to the northwest at this point. So yeah, this is Ohio and Kentucky, and big storm on the east side of Cincinnati. Still has some broad rotation. It looks more impressive on the reflectivity than it does currently on the velocity. You can also check the correlation coefficient for hail. Probably some hail showing up in here. Returns like this that are a little heavier and have a little scattering of green and yellow, that's going to be a hail core. Summerside Estates, Tabasco, Newtown. This area here is seeing some pretty nasty weather at the moment. Still is rotating, so you got to watch, especially this area south of Route 32. This area right here has a pretty good access to some warm inflow. There are storms further to the south, but you have some warm inflow and some generally uncontaminated space here that if it taps it, it can certainly start to rotate a little more vigorously. Otherwise, outside of that, we have big storms still in northern Kentucky, but further down 75, east of Dry Ridge now, near Falmouth. 1-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds. This does have a tornado possible tag on it, so we can also check that out. It does have some rotation south side of Falmouth, between Falmouth, Boyd, and Goforth. Especially this area right in here, south of Goforth. Definitely one to keep watching. And then coming into the Columbus area, not also a good travel time for 71, really, between Cincinnati and Columbus. This is a pretty major interstate here, and just a big mess of storms. Hail and wind are the primary threats up here. Also some heavy storms up 75 towards Sydney. This area got hit in western Ohio with tornadoes a few weeks ago in the middle of March. Luckily, the tornadic threat seems to be further south, so just some general thunderstorms up here by Sydney right now. If you're in the Cincinnati area, Hamilton, Oxford, west side of Cincinnati into Indiana, Manchester, Lawrenceburg, Harrison, Springdale, even downtown Cincinnati starting to clear out. Florence and the airport. That area, your tornado threat is going to drop off significantly once this line of storms passes. Same now, down 71 towards Louisville, LaGrange in Kentucky, really all of Indiana now. Evansville, Bloomington, Columbus, Indiana, up towards Indianapolis had severe storms earlier this afternoon. All clear of the severe threat. A bit more conditional risk up in northern Ohio, northeast Indiana, Fort Wayne, Findlay, Bowling Green. It doesn't look like that risk is going to pan out. Maybe some general scattered showers and thunderstorms, Findlay, Lima, over to Mansfield. But certainly the severe threat seems to be contained within that tornado watch area, and especially on the south side of 70. That storm that we were watching earlier in the Huntsville area has now gone tornado warned. And actually the storm now south and east of Bowling Green, Kentucky has been dropped. So this is that storm that we were watching. It had a, I believe it was severe warned, or it had a significant weather advisory. It had a hail core that was looking pretty good. Now it looks like it's wrapped up a bit and has a tornado tag on it. Radar indicated. This is for northwestern Madison County in north central Alabama, northeastern Limestone County, and southwestern Lincoln County. It goes up into Tennessee, this warning. 5:53 Central Time over Athens and moving northeast at 40. It's a radar indicated tornado. So I believe that's the small area rotation. Yeah, it tightened up a little bit right on the area right by Athens. It's now right around 65 on that northeast side of Athens. It's moving northeast very quickly. What was the speed on this again? Moving northeast at 40. Storms today have been moving very fast. Actually, this morning there was a convective system that was, I think, at one point warned for speeds over 80 miles an hour. It went through West Virginia, produced actually quite a bit of wind damage between tapping into high winds, the storms, and them themselves moving 80 plus miles an hour. They were able to generate significant winds at the ground level. We'll have to see. The Weather Service will go out and check radar and also check damage and everything to see if that's going to be an official derecho event. Derechos are labeled after they meet the certain criteria of the wind speeds and also the length of their path. But yeah, watching some rotation here, north side of Athens, Alabama. Right over 65, really, on the northeast side of Athens. That same general area is going to have your hail core on the north side of Athens here. Right in this area here is going to be your hail core. So, pretty nasty storm. Should go north of the Huntsville proper. Headed in the general direction of, you're right kind of at the edge of the warning area, but generally towards the Hazel Green area. Certainly take your tornado precautions again in this area here. If you have a basement, lower level, away from windows, interior. If you don't have a basement, interior closet, bathroom, away from windows, away from the outside walls. If you're in a mobile home, hopefully you have a predetermined neighbor or friend that you can go over and in a sturdy structure. And it's one of those things that if I lived in a mobile home, it would be something I'd plan, especially if there's a tornado watch issued. It's probably time to double check your tornado precautions, double check your neighbor or friend or family member, make sure they're home, and be ready to head over there. And if you can, head over there for the whole time the watch is in effect. And you can see how the Weather Service, as that tornado threat decreases, like up in Indiana that we talked about, they'll trim back that watch area. So even if the watch says, 9, 10, 11 at night, you may not have to be out of your home until then. You just really have to be in your safe location ahead of time, especially if you live in a trailer or mobile home. Be in your location ahead of time. That way you don't have to have any last minute rush. Yeah, still some good rotation here. Now northeast of Athens, pretty decently northwest of Huntsville, and southwest of Hazel Green. This is another storm, like we talked about earlier, that has a pretty good feed of air into the storm. There's not really any big storms just to the south of it, so it can tap some of that instability and moisture and just wrap that into the storm here. A bit still broad rotation, but good news is this is now east of I-65. So if you're traveling on I-65 between Ardmore and Athens and further south, the tornado threat is going to be east of the highway. You can also get in here towards Sardis Springs. That's really the area where the rotation is here at the moment. Headed up towards Tawny and Harvest. Be in your tornado safe places here. And Hazel Green just outside of the warning specifically. If you're not already, it might be good to start preparing to head to that interior room on the lowest level of your building in a sturdy structure. Generally kind of headed this way. I believe it was at 45. So there you can see some of the cities and towns. Tony, about 10 minutes. 10 minutes or less. This is the only tornado warning here at the moment. Another messy storm. It doesn't have a super classic look to it. There was a storm actually this afternoon around Evansville. Looked a pretty good structure for tornadic development for a little bit. This one does have a little bit of a notch, I guess, where it's getting the inflow. You can kind of see here, right up in here, north and east of Athens, and it's kind of wrapping around that backside. More storms along the cold front. You may have to watch those. They're still in the tornado watch area around Corinth, east of Jackson now in Tennessee. And then a new severe thunderstorm warning north of Nashville, between Nashville and Clarksville. This one does have a tornado possible tag. Pretty high winds too. 60-mile-an-hour winds. Penny-size hail. And severe thunderstorm located over Coopertown near Springfield, moving east at 50. Tornado possible would be in this area here. Moving so fast. South of Springfield in Tennessee. So that's where the National Weather Service is watching. Right now, pretty broad rotation and not that strong. More of a shear line. But they'll monitor that, make sure it doesn't strengthen over various scans of the radar. And that storm is generally headed Springfield, Pleasant View, over towards Portland and Gallatin. The storm, if you're on 65, will affect 65 north of Nashville. Basically between Nashville and Franklin. You maybe got a few minutes to travel this, but if you're just starting to head out, might be good to hold back, wait for the storm to pass. Back to our currently only tornado warning still. This one's now pretty far well and north and east of Athens, Alabama. It's on the and east of I-65, south of Ardmore, around that Tawny area, up towards Hazel Green is going to be your tornadic threat. Probably some good sized hail up in here on 53, and also well north of Huntsville if you're just tuning in. Well north of Huntsville, Alabama. Well, we have a minute here. Just one tornado warning, so that's nice. Just gonna check the mesoscale discussion, see if anything of interest is going on with the Storm Prediction Center. So over the last 30-40 minutes, the Storm Prediction Center is looking at a watch for central Alabama. About a 95% chance of a watch. Basically, the current tornado watch is from south of Tupelo up to just south of Huntsville and on the Georgia Tennessee state line by Chattanooga. Looks like a new watch is in the conversation of the Storm Prediction Center from really the area just north and east of Hattiesburg, around Meridian in eastern Mississippi, basically up to that area where the watch is south of Tupelo, and then over through central Alabama, Montgomery, Columbus, Georgia area, maybe just north of Columbus, Georgia. Actually, the discussion is all the way towards the Atlanta area and then up towards North Georgia. So that's the area that they're discussing for a watch likely. National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center. Thunderstorms will intensify this evening. Severe storms capable of tornadoes and damaging winds are possible in that area. So eastern Mississippi through central Alabama and northwest Georgia. Have your tornado plans ready. This is going to be getting into the evening. So eventually, as the sun sets here, there could be some after dark tornadoes, which are one of the more dangerous aspects of tornadoes, and it actually happen more frequently in this part of the country, Mississippi, Arkansas, that mid-Mississippi River Valley, over through the mid-South. In an area known as Dixie Alley, you'll hear about a tornado alley. There's kind of a secondary tornado alley in this area. So good news is it means a lot of people are probably well aware and have tornado plans, but it's a good time to, kind of go through those again. The National Weather Service is also watching those severe storms up between Cincinnati and Columbus. We do have a new tornado warning. Radar indicated for a storm south of Cincinnati, well south of Cincinnati. It's near Maysville, Ripley, east of Falmouth. I think we talked about this storm a little bit ago. It had I believe, a tornado possible severe warning over by Falmouth. It's now wrapped up quite a bit, and let's see what it looks like here. Yeah, it's got some pretty decent rotation. Brooksville, Powersville, between Neve, Powersville, and west of Brooksville. It's got a bit of an inflow notch here. Let's make this white again. Inflow here, trying to wrap around here. So your tornado would sit kind of right in this area here, just on the west side of Brooksville. And you can see that corresponds with the velocity scan. Pretty good inbound winds. So that would be your tornado right there. If it touches down just on the west side of Brooksville, take cover in that area. This is now south of the Ohio River. In Kentucky. This is one of those days and nights where, and I mean, you can see it with how big of the warnings there are, or how big the watches are. You know, watches from Tupelo, Mississippi, all the way to the north side of Columbus, Ohio, means that there are going to be various tornado warnings probably at the same time in different states. So I'm going to try and keep it all together. And some of these states have the same town name. So, you know, there's Jackson, Tennessee, Jackson, Kentucky, all kinds of places. That storm in southeastern Kentucky has gone tornado warned again. It's in an area of pretty poor radar coverage. We're looking pretty far up in the storm. It was tornado warned in Tennessee. It had tornado possible, severe thunderstorm warning, I think, around Pineville. And now it is near Harlan, Kentucky, with a tornado warning. And this probably is going to be radar indicated. Moving northeast at 50. This is going to affect the Harlan, Kentucky area. Again, radar indicated tornado. Be just on the south side of Harlan. And it was at 50. So that's going to come into Harlan in less than 5 minutes. If you're in Harlan, Kentucky, be in your tornado safe places. Clovertown, less than 5 minutes. Farmers Mill, about 5 to 6 minutes. Brookside, a little less than 10 minutes. So if you hear your town or see your town on this list, take your tornado precautions. Big time hail. This has a big hail core again. Now we are looking pretty far up into the storm, so it's hard to tell if this is reaching the ground or not, but this area around Harlan and US Route 119, that is some big time hail signatures showing up. Yeah, that is not looking pretty. Tornado would be on the south side of this, the southeast side of this. Just southeast of Harlan, Kentucky. And then your big time hail is up along that 119 corridor, also ready to come into Harlan, Kentucky. So, ooh boy, that is a nasty looking storm. There's been a few tornadoes today in areas that generally don't get a ton of tornadoes. Eastern Kentucky up into West Virginia had a confirmed tornado earlier this afternoon. So that has been quite impressive. unless we get ground truth, this is pretty far from the radar site, so it's hard to tell. It's going to be hard to tell if a tornado is on the ground for how far it is away from the radar site, unless there's a storm spotter or law enforcement that reports it. But this is more that textbook look to a severe tornadic supercell here, with the hook echo signature. Tornado likes to sit right down on that southeast side of the hook echo. Yeah, even putting a little smoothing on the radar, you can see that purple area here. That's a big time hail core, right along 119, just west of Harlan. And then your tornado is going to be just on that southwest side of Harlan, Kentucky, moving east at 50 miles an hour. So that is a strong looking signature there. This storm is actually pretty far ahead of the complex of storms. It's back in central Kentucky all the way up to the Cincinnati area, south side of Cincinnati. See, now we're starting to get some tornadoes here, or tornado warnings anyway. We have a reactivated tornado warning for the storm that's now south and east of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Sorry, this is a new storm that is south of Bowling Green, Kentucky. The previous tornado warned storm is now a storm, just a general thunderstorm up by Glasgow, Kentucky. So this area now has another tornado warning. So I got confused there for a second. That means you could easily get confused if you were in this area, and if you live in this area, south side of Bowling Green, Kentucky, you may have thought you're out of the woods, the tornado watch or the tornado warning expired, but that is not true. This is a small little storm, but it is packing a punch. And yeah, this one actually has pretty strong rotation here. This is a better tornado producing signature than the last one that was in almost the same location between Rockfield and Woodburn, Kentucky. It's a little further south. The last signature was kind of right in here where it was the strongest, almost exactly between those two towns. This one's sitting a little bit south and west of that. South side of Bowling Green, Kentucky, Plum Springs over to Alvaton, Woodburn, Rockfield, be in your tornado safe space. This is one of the better signatures that I've seen in a little while here since we started the live stream. And we started the live stream a couple times, had some technical difficulties this afternoon getting the live stream going. But while the technical difficulties were getting fixed, I was still checking radars, and this is one of your better signatures here for a tornado. It's a small, compact storm, so that is an interesting storm here and a dangerous one. It's going to be crossing I-65 south of Bowling Green, Kentucky. If you're traveling I-65, I would stop at Bowling Green or stop at Franklin. Let this storm go through. That is a nasty storm. That signature looks like it could tighten up pretty quickly and produce a tornado right in this area. South Union, Petros, Rockfield, Rich Pond, Woodburn, Route 73 south of South Union. If you're along there, Route 621, Route 240 between Petros and Woodburn. You need to be in your tornado safe place. And then everywhere east of this as well: Rockfield, Rich Pond, Woodburn, Matlock, Drake, Plano, Greenwood, Hardcastle, Green Hill, Allen Springs, Lost River, south side of Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's a nasty storm. Alerts have picked up where there's now 4 tornado warnings. Limestone, Alabama, Madison, Alabama, Lincoln, Tennessee. That's that same storm, I believe, on the north side of Huntsville. We can jump down there. Yeah, it's slowed down. I believe this was at one point moving at like 50 or 55. It's still in this warning north of Athens, south and east of Ardmore, and just west of Hazel Green. If there's a tornado, I would say it'd be right in this area, kind of west of Hazel Green. It's not super strong rotation, so that's good. But still, if you're in this area between Ardmore and Hazel Green, take your tornado precautions, be in your safe place there. It doesn't look as strong as the other storm that we were just looking at. And then we still have that tornado along the Ohio, or the tornado potential along the Ohio River. This is in Kentucky, south of Augusta, near headed towards Ripley, Maysville, and Aberdeen, with a radar indicated tornado. Large hail too, 1-inch hail. And that is on the Ohio side. Georgetown, Ohio is going to get some pretty good hail just south of Georgetown, Ohio. Now a tornado warning east of Cincinnati, well east of Cincinnati, south of Blanchester, Ohio, near Fayetteville, Ohio, and St. Martin. A radar indicated tornado. This is one of those messier storms. It looks like the rotation is back in the rain on kind of the back side of this complex of storms, this little cluster of storms. It'd be in this area here, just north of Veracruz and just west of Fayetteville, Ohio. So be in your safe places here: Veracruz, Fayetteville, St. Martin, Chasetown, over towards Dodson, Ohio. This is well east of Cincinnati and well south of Columbus. And south of Wilmington. That is a bit of a weird storm. It does not look like that classic one. So those are your 2 northern tornado warned storms. Let's go back and look at the one in Harlan. This is coming right through the south side of Harlan at the moment. Still just radar indicated. This is far from the radar site, so we really won't be able to tell much unless there's ground truth to this. It kind of looks messy too, this far up. But tornado would be sitting just on the southeast side of Harlan, and still a big hail core up along Route 119. So if you have any interests outside of the tornado warned area, but along 119 in eastern Kentucky, that area is, and hail can be deadly. Hail can be dangerous if you're outside in this. This could be a significant hail. Yeah, it's so far from the radar site that the CC just is messy. It's probably showing the hail core up in here. These blues, greens, and yellows up in here are correlating pretty strongly with the hail core, right along 119, like I said, towards between Harlan, north side of Harlan, and Nolensburg. That's some large hail showing up. Again, we're looking pretty far up in the storm, so hopefully right now the updrafts are keeping some of this big hail in the storm up. One thing that can happen is a severe storm that's holding its hail up in the atmosphere. When the storm weakens and that updraft weakens, that may reduce the tornado threat, but it will stop supporting the heavy weight of hailstones and just unleash. So that's something to watch as this goes towards now north and east of Harlan, towards Evarts, Nolensburg, Cumberland, and yeah, it's being warned for 1.5 inch hail, but it could even have larger hail. It just we'll have to see if there's any ground truth to that when that goes through. But that is a dangerous storm too. Tornado would be between Harlan and Evarts. Closer looks like maybe to Evarts. Sometimes the radar might be a little behind on the one. South of Nolensburg. So between Harlan, Evarts, and Nolensburg is going to be your tornado threat. South of 119. And big hail along Route 119. That's that one. Let's go back and check that storm south of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Still a nasty looking storm. Still just radar indicated, so that is a good sign. But it's maintaining that rotation there. So the rotation back where there was a storm a little bit ago, rotation south of Rockfield and just north of Woodburn. Sitting right in here, this is between Franklin and Bowling Green are the two larger towns east of Auburn in Kentucky. This is again headed towards the I-65 corridor. So if you're between Bowling Green, Kentucky and Franklin, I would just not travel this right now. Just hold up in Franklin or Bowling Green. Let this tornadic storm pass. It's a small, compact storm, but it's got decent rotation on that southwest side of the storm. And it looks like it's headed more east than northeast, maybe a little bit northeast. It should stay south of Bowling Green proper. The tornado warning covers the south side of Bowling Green, but not downtown. And zooming in a little closer here, areas right by the rotation are Rich Pond, Plano, Matlock, Drake, Alvaton, Greenwood, over towards Hardcastle and Green Hill. You need to be taking your tornado safe places here. And I would go up. We now have an observed tornado. 17 alerts. There's now 5 tornado warnings. So we keep getting more tornado warnings. And yes, now this storm over along the Ohio River, I believe it's Ripley, south Ripley area, has a tornado warning on it. Let me check a different product here and just see what that storm looks like. That storm is just north of Maysville. And yeah, that has a strong signature here. Right over Ripley and South Ripley. Let's check this area out here. It's going to be in this area here. This is a bit far from the radar too, so, but yes, it does have a CC drop in that general area of the rotation. It's now crossing the Ohio River near South Ripley, Hestoria. This is a tornado in progress. Also 1-inch hail on it. Yes, it's being warned. Confirmed. Who confirmed it? Let me see if it says. It's a radar confirmed tornado. So radar shows the debris in the air. So we may get, if there's law enforcement in this area, law enforcement may be able to pick up on that. But this is an area just, it's going to be rain wrapped too. It's a nasty storm. So you're actually going to have rain and hail all in this area here, and that's going to preclude the tornado. Sometimes, like we see on that Harlan storm, when the supercell is structured really well, you'll have the appendage that sticks down, and it tends to stay south of that hail core, which means it could sometimes be more visible. This one is not going to be. And the dangerous part about here is You may hear the hail and rain and wind hitting your roof, and all of a sudden that kind of quiets down, and you think, oh, the storm is over. Do not come out of your tornado safe place, because if you don't hear that hail hitting your roof, that tornado is sitting just behind it. So yeah, the tornado is sitting behind all this hail and heavy rain, which makes it extra messy. So this is a confirmed tornado crossing from Kentucky into southern Ohio, South Ripley. We can zoom in real close here. Hestoria, just south of this little town of Hestoria, on US Route 52, 62, and Ohio 49A. That might be a county road. But yes, ongoing debris signature. It's headed in the general direction of Hyatt. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Also roughly in the general direction of Neal. North of Slickaway. And yeah, right along the Ohio River. Just south of Hestoria, Ohio, and East Ripley, Ohio. And that debris signature is holding together. We can pull the velocities up. So yeah, your tornado's sitting right in there in the rain. That is a dangerous storm. That is a dangerous storm. Even with the rain, you can see how the rain is curling around this. So there's kind of an embedded supercell. It looks not like a traditional supercell until you kind of map it out, but it's wrapped up and your tornado's right in that little notch. And again, you're going to have heavy rain, hail, wind ahead of the tornado. The tornado's moving in this general east-northeast direction. So if you live east-northeast of this current location, you're going to get hit with general severe thunderstorm criteria before the tornado. And beyond that, they just issued a massive severe thunderstorm warning for this whole area in northeastern Kentucky and southern Ohio. It's going to cover, I guess, this whole line outside of the ongoing confirmed tornado south of Ripley there. You have some big hail cores. And then the tornado signature looks a little weaker. The tornado may be lifting a little bit south and east of Ripley. But this area here back towards Barry and Cynthiana, Ohio, Cynthiana, Kentucky, you can see on the CC there's some messy signatures. That's the hail core on this storm that's east of Barry. There's probably another hail core west of Ripley, and then a hail core north and east of Ripley. So ongoing problems here. This whole cluster is worthy of that severe thunderstorm warning, which now covers West Union, Maysville, over to Portsmouth, Ohio, Vanceburg, Maysville, north of Ewing, Manchester, over towards Peebles, Rardon, and Beaver, south of Piketon in Ohio. So along the Ohio River. And yeah, that storm still has a bit of a debris signature. It may have lifted. We'll have to see what that looks like on the next scan. But the tornado would be right in this area here, east, southeast of Ripley. It's now crossed the Ohio River. Luckily, as it gets a little bit further away from the Ohio River, it's going to lose a little bit of population. This area isn't particularly populated. But it is hilly, and there are towns and villages up in here. There's also some state highways and county highways. But yeah, generally it looks like it missed some of the most populated areas around Ripley and Dover, and north of Aberdeen and Maysville in Kentucky. Should go south of Decatur in Ohio. Decatur, you're going to be more in line for that rain and hail on the north side of this storm. I don't see the we don't see the debris signature like we did a couple scans ago in the radar, so that's a good sign right there. Can check the velocity. Still has a decent velocity to it. You can see though it was a little tighter velocity when it came across the Ohio River. Get that tag out of the way. But still, possible tornado is going to be just on the east side of this warning area, south of Decatur, east of Ripley. And we can zoom in here, yeah, right north of Hyatt and Neal. I think we called those two towns earlier too. If you're near Ohio, if you're in Ohio near Hyatt, Neal, south of Decatur, that would be your possible tornado right in that area. Headed generally over towards that area between Manchester and West Union. Alright, I'm going to leave that storm a minute. Still has an observed tag, but we'll see if the Weather Service changes that one. I want to go and look at that storm along I-65. It is broadened the rotation a little bit. So still rotation, not quite as strong. Now east of Rockfield and Woodburn. And yes, we did talk about these towns earlier because there was another tornado warned storm that had rotation in almost that exact same area. But the area around Rich Pond, north of Matlock, between Rich Pond and Plano, that would be where your tornado is sitting. This one does not have an observed tag, so it is a radar indicated. And we can check its correlation coefficient, just see if there's anything that shows. Not really anything showing up like you could see in that other storm. So that's a good sign that there's not a tornado on the ground. However, decent rotation there between Rich Pond and Plano, south of Bowling Green in Kentucky. So 5 tornado warnings. That one along the Ohio River is still an observed tornado warning. And then the other ones are radar indicated. That's for Warren, Kentucky. The one over by Harlan, Kentucky, still tornado warned. Now, well, north and east of the Harlan, and now north of Everts and Nolensburg. Still showing a large hail core up along 119, headed towards Gordon, Cumberland, Kentucky, and Lynch, Kentucky. And then your tornado, this is again really far from the radar site, so we don't have a great radar presentation here, but it'd be kind of south and east of Nolensburg, and generally headed towards that area south of Cumberland towards Lynch. So if you're in that area south of 119, Cumberland, Gordon, Lynch, take your tornado precautions. This warning actually goes out quite a ways. So really that whole area along 119, Whitesburg, these are pretty hilly, mountainous areas, so you're not going to see this thing coming. If there is a tornado, it's going to be, on the other side of the mountain. You're not going to be able to take a picture like it's out in Kansas and see this thing from, 20 miles away. It's going to just, roll over the mountain and all of a sudden there's a tornado there. So need to take this one seriously. Same for the hail core. You're not going to see it coming. Getting pretty close to too late here. If you're in Gordon, Cumberland, that hail core is between Cumberland and Nolensburg. And yeah, still showing a large hail core. If you're a little further down the line, hopefully outside the tornado warning, but Rhoda, Oven Fork, Party, Dunbar, you have a little bit of time to maybe get your car in shelter and at least get your car out of the hail core. Although if the tornado hits, it's not going to help much anyway. But and then still have an ongoing tornado warning north of Huntsville. It's right along the Kentucky and Tennessee line. Still decent rotation. It's not extremely tight, and this is one of the messier cells, but it's right actually along the Kentucky and Tennessee line, north and east of Hazel Green, or I said Kentucky, Tennessee, the Alabama and Tennessee state line. So north and east of Hazel Green, Alabama, and south and west of Flintville in Kentucky, or in Tennessee. And they've now extended this warning out from Hazel Green up to Fayetteville, over towards Lynchburg, Tennessee, Huntland, and Flintville. Especially in this area here, from Park City over to Flintville and Elora on the Tennessee side. Your rotation is right in this area. It's a bit broad, but you have winds kind of going like this, and they get a little bit tighter right in this area here. It's not the most impressive one. We've certainly seen more impressive rotation just a few minutes ago. This is another messy storm. It's going to be rain wrapped. You can see all this heavy rain. It's a bit of a little kidney bean tucked in this heavy rain. So take your safe space here for a few minutes if you're between Hazel Green, Alabama, and Flintville in Tennessee. That one is radar indicated. So I don't see a tornado warning. They dropped the tornado warning around the Bowling Green, Kentucky area. Still some rotation. South side of Bowling Green, north of Alvaton, just along 65 here. So take a few minutes if you're planning on traveling south of Bowling Green in Kentucky. Take a few minutes, let this storm pass. It does look less structured in the last couple scans here. You can see it definitely had a lot stronger rotation back between Rockfield and Woodburn out on Route 621, and the rotation has come down quite a bit. And the overall presentation, you can see a lot less reds and oranges, more yellows. That's a sign that that storm is in a weakening trend. Still, if you're out ahead of it, Smiths Grove, Glasgow, Polkville, Ponsville, Red Cross, keep an eye on this storm. Even though it's not warned right now, they can spin back up sometimes. So keep an eye on it. Stay away from the windows. Let's go back up to the Ohio storm. It's now radar indicated, but it does have a tornado warning again just west of West Union, south of Decatur, and west of West Union, approaching Route 41. That's Ohio Route 41. North of Manchester, this is the Ohio River along here. So it's north of some of the more populated areas along the Ohio River, but it's approaching that area around West Union. And this area in particular looks a bit more suspicious. A lot of inbound winds headed towards the radar. Again, this is going to be a rain-wrapped tornado. If it's up in there, it's in the heavy rain. We can check on it and see if there's any correlation coefficient CC drop. Nothing really there. So probably not on the ground. It is radar indicated, so that kind of confirms that. Well, let's watch this scanner too. There's a bit of a CC drop north of Bentonville, and that would be basically in that same area of the rotation. Let's see if that holds. It could just be a bit of contamination or hail and rain. But if it lasts a scan or two or looks more of the blues and greens and you see that significant CC drop, that could indicate that it's back on the ground. And I'm going to check another feature that I have here. We're getting a bit further from the radar site too, so this is an area that is a bit further from the radar too. But yeah, that area around West Union is looking pretty good for another tornado. It's moving really fast. This storm is really booking it here. West Union in Ohio, be in your tornado safe space. Panhandle, Bentonville, West Union over to Whippoorwill, Duncansville, Lynx, and eventually over towards Blue Creek in Ohio. Yeah, rotation does appear to be tightening back up. And unfortunately, it's kind of just tightening up on that area as it just on the west side of West Union. So we'll see if the scans show a CC drop. I'm sure the Weather Service is also kind of watching the same thing. Yes, you can see where the CC dropped there on the last scan, right there. And then scan 2, I'll zoom in on it, but it does appear like there's a CC drop right there again. I would say that's a tornado on the ground again, just on the west side of West Union. Right there along 136, south of Panhandle, west side of West Union. We'll see again if this CC drop holds together, but that is really pretty much the same area as the tight rotation there. So yes, be in your safe space here. Panhandle over to West Union. North of Bentonville in Ohio. And now east of Fairfield. Or Fairview. But yeah, we can zoom in even a little further. Route 21, Route 125, Route 136, north and west side of West Union, south and southeast of Panhandle in Ohio. It's not the largest CC drop, but it does correlate with the rotation. So that's an area that I suspect there's at least a weak tornado on the ground. It could be stronger though, because it is a little further from the radar site, so we're seeing up into the storm. We're not seeing right at the ground level. And we'll be able to see if the CC drop continues as it kind of comes up north and east, right towards the junction of 125 and 21. I believe that's an Ohio Route 125 and maybe a county road, 21. Yep, south side of 21. And just now crossing in east of 136 in Ohio. And they did change the tag on that. That is now an observed tornado. So it's now warned for a confirmed damaging tornado located over West Union, moving east at 45. Radar confirmed it, just like we looked at it here. That is what they're seeing, and unfortunately that CC drop just got a little bigger. But yeah, pretty much just north and west side of West Union. Now again, we're also looking up in the storm a little bit, and tornadoes, just like at the ground level, they can wiggle up in the in the storm too. So the Weather Service is warning us over West Union. It could be on the ground in West Union, and we're seeing it at that higher level, just kind of north and west of downtown. My hope is that might be actually just west of the downtown. It looks like it's maybe pulled a little bit more north from northeast on a track somewhat like this. It came across 136 more on a northeastern path. It may be working its way up a little more north of east. So that would put it in Route 22, Ohio Route 247, West Union. If you're in West Union, take cover now. You got a tornado coming down on you. But yeah, that area between West Union and Whippoorwill, it's moving quick too. Route 22, Route 247, Route 41, Ohio Route 41. Between West Union and Whippoorwill, that's where your couplet and your CC drop is going to be. Eventually, Duncansville, Fawcett. Maybe if it turns again over towards Lynx, and Blue Creek is all in a tornado warning. If you're in this tornado warning, please take shelter. There's an observed tornado confirmed by radar by the Weather Service. And yeah, we can see on radar a pretty tight tornado vortex signature, pretty tight couplet here. You got the reds going this way away from the radar, and you got the greens going towards the radar, and right there they're meeting in pretty bright colors. That indicates a tornado, and that is backed up on the panel here on our left side of the screen with the CC drop, the correlation coefficient, picking up non-meteorological targets. So the stuff in pink and red and maroon, that's kind of just general rain. And if it's green and blue, some of this is outside the storm, so it's just contamination. But if we're seeing the CC drop correlate with the rotation, that's a big sign of a tornado on the ground. And it looks like we do have that between West Union and Whippoorwill in Ohio. Yeah, the stuff down here is just the CC drop contamination. There's actually just clear air down there. The storm is up here, and actually looking at this storm, like it did earlier, it had a tornado as it crossed the Ohio River south of Ripley. This storm is going to be rain wrapped. You're not going to see this coming. And if you're in areas that are north and east of the tornado, like Duncansville, Whippoorwill, out Route 1, you're going to have hail and rain and all that hitting your house. It may lighten up, but do not, if you hear the hail stopped, don't think that you're safe and come out of your tornado shelter, because behind that hail core is where your tornado is sitting. So the rain may let up for a few minutes. You can see here there's a little bit of yellow versus the red. The rain may actually let up, the hail will let up, and then bam, you got the tornado sitting back there. So a really dangerous rain-wrapped storm. Still ongoing. Warn for observed tornado and 1-inch hail. Moving northeast at 50 near West Union, Ohio. And law enforcement has now confirmed a tornado. Law enforcement at 7:52 p.m. confirmed a tornado northwest of West Union moving east. And that is what the radar is showing as well. Go back to the CC scan, and still showing up. Again, this is getting a little further from the radar site too, so ground truth, it could be even a little stronger than that. And now it just moved on me. But it's now crossing 41 north of West Union, between West Union and Whippoorwill. If you're in Whippoorwill, Hopefully you're already in your tornado safe space. But yes, this is a dangerous storm. With a CC drop right there. Now the last scan just south of Whippoorwill does not look quite as impressive on the radar, but still pretty tight rotation right here. You have the winds coming into the storm, and then the winds going away from the radar like that. And this is held together for quite a little while. It dropped a tornado that was confirmed earlier as it crossed the Ohio River south of Ripley, and then it looks like it lifted a little bit, and then the rotation tightened back up as it was coming into West Union. We saw that CC drop south of Panhandle and west of West Union, and then we could see that CC drop follow kind of on a track like this across the north and west sides of West Union. It's now between West Union and Whippoorwill, south of Duncansville, and south and west of Faucette in Ohio. A little larger view of this, it's south of Peebles and northwest of Blue Creek. I'm going to check here. We have 18 alerts, 5 tornado warnings still. Another tornado warning up in Ohio. And this is going to be for areas around Lancaster, Ohio, and Baltimore. Looks like they're extending a severe thunderstorm warning. But this is a radar indicated tornado, hail, and possible tornado west of Lancaster there. This is south of Columbus. Another severe thunderstorm east of Columbus towards the Newark area. This has a little bit of rotation near Hebron and south of Newark. It's warned for severe storm, 1-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds. Have to watch that rotation, see if it picks up, but it's generally getting a little less favorable up that way for tornadic development. It's more favorable a little closer to the Ohio River. I'm going to hop around to the tornado warnings and just check them out a little bit. We have that tornado warning still in eastern Kentucky. It's looking a little less impressive, so that's a nice thing, but it's up near Oven Fork along Route 119 northeast of Cumberland, between Oven Fork, Day, and Kings Creek in Kentucky, and south of Whitesburg. That storm has rotation, and it's been tornado warned for a long time. It also has a large hail core to watch out for. Yeah, that is in eastern Kentucky there. Another storm down in Tennessee on the north side of Huntsville, well north of Huntsville now, but that warning is continued for Flintville over to Huntland and Beach Hill, Cowan, Estill Springs, Broadview, Belvedere. We can check velocities on that. It still has rotation near Shady Grove in Tennessee. So this area here doesn't look quite as tight as, say, that Ohio storm that we just saw, but you have winds here, and they come together, kind of just right around that Shady Grove area. We'll see that can potentially tighten up and generate a tornado. Right now, it's just a radar indicated one. But if you live in this area in Tennessee, Shady Grove over to Lexi, Crossroads, Walnut Grove, Belvedere, Kingsley Crossing, Broadview. That area is all tornado warned. Winchester in Tennessee is the larger town that it's headed towards. And that's generally moving in a northeast direction. Still an observed tornado in Adams County. That one's there in Franklin. This is right along the Virginia line. So now Wise County in Virginia has a tornado warning. It's north of the town of Wise. It's that same storm, rotation around Oven Fork, but if it keeps going kind of northeast, it could be into Virginia around Flat Gap, Gilly, Dewey, Pound, and Haddonfield. On the Kentucky side, Payne Gap, Jenkins, May, King, Whitesburg, Oven Fork, particularly in the tornado warning right there. I'm going to clear a few things here. I want to... I want to turn off the tornado watches and warnings for a second. Or, sorry, the tornado watches. I want to turn those off for a second so we can kind of just see the warnings. And just regroup for a second here. So we have a tornado warning in southern Tennessee. Tornado warning along the Kentucky and Virginia border, and then 2 tornado warnings in Ohio near Lancaster, Ohio, and then 1 the confirmed observed tornado by law enforcement earlier was near West Union in southern Ohio. And we just got a new tornado warning. It was for that storm by Newark that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, had some broad rotation. We'll zoom down in there and see how that's going. This storm in eastern Kentucky along the Virginia border is far away from the radar site, so it's going to be really hard to get ground truth. If you're in a warning in that area, please take it seriously. The rotation in that southern Tennessee storm has held together, but it hasn't been particularly tight. But it has held together pretty good distance. So, the concern there is it tightens back up and creates a tornado. But for the next few minutes, we're going to take a little bit of a tour of Ohio and start with the observed tornado and then jump up to these 2 on now well south and east of Columbus. So that's going to be the plan of right now, the next few minutes anyway. It looks like basically, again, if you're west of this line, your tornado and severe weather threat goes down quite significantly. So let's just take some good news and clear a few people. Memphis, Jackson in Tennessee, Clarksville in Tennessee, Hopkinsville in Kentucky, Evansville, Louisville, Cincinnati proper, as well as like northern Kentucky, Florence, Independence, Hamilton, Ohio, all the way up that Cincinnati-Dayton corridor in Ohio. You guys are all clear of the strong storm threat. And then, yeah, let's take a look now. Let's zoom into this area here. I'm going to turn back on. Oops, not there. I want to turn back on the severe watches just so we get a sense of what's going on. And they did actually push a tornado watch further east. And I can check that here in a second as well. Let me look here. Seven minutes ago, we talked about it earlier on the stream. They did finally issue a new tornado watch for this area, eastern Mississippi through central Alabama, Birmingham, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, north of Mobile, over towards Meridian, Mississippi, over to the area just west of Atlanta. So the western and northern Atlanta suburbs, up 75 towards Dalton, Rome. That is a new tornado watch. And that goes until 2 a.m. The other tornado watch that they issued within the last 30-40 minutes was for the extreme eastern portion of Kentucky and then West Virginia, basically western West Virginia, the western half of West Virginia, eastern Ohio, and up even into the Pittsburgh area. The other day I was looking at the models and I said the severe weather threat would largely stay south of Route 30, and Route 30 kind of runs along here. So far that's stuck pretty true. They have not dropped the tornado watch for the area in western Ohio. I wonder if they're looking and seeing if there's any further development along those storms. But anyway, let's get into, now we've kind of regrouped and covered the broad overview. Let's go here and check these storms in Ohio. So good news for the storm down here by West Union. It's now labeled as radar indicated. It does not have the confirmed tornado tag along it. It looks like the rotation is weaker. If there was a tornado, it'd be sitting in this area here, east of Fawcett and just south or over Mineral Springs. Also north and west side of Walmsley in Ohio. And you can see here it does present a bit of a hook right in here. It's actually a little better developed looking than it did earlier when it had the tornado and it was rain wrapped. But yeah, your tornado and rotation is kind of right in here between Mineral Springs and Walmsley in Ohio. So not looking as concerning as earlier, but still, if you're in that tornado warning, please take precautions. Severe thunderstorm warning is back in West Union, Manchester. That whole line looks like it has high winds and hail. Get a sip of water here. Important to hydrate, especially on these streams. So yeah, heavy rain, wind, and hail going through West Union again, with that tornado threat now off to your north and east. Be watching that storm. You're not in the warning yet, but Rardon and Otway would be next in line if they extend that tornado warning. Now that new tornado warning is the one that we looked at earlier. It had broad rotation. I feel like I've been saying it a lot, but this is getting a little further from the radar. Ohio has a bit of radar holes as a state. But rotation, it has a radar indicated tornado. It'd be sitting south of Newark and west of Hopeville, probably just north of I-70. And this is a messy looking storm. It would be rain wrapped as well. There's rain and thunder and lightning all out ahead of this, so you're not going to see this one coming. Actually, here in this view, we can kind of see both. They appear to be similar storms. You have rotation here south and east in Newark, headed towards Hopeville, Zanesville. If you're on I-70 and you don't have to travel I-70 right now east of Columbus, might be good to get a little bit of a late dinner and just hold up there. And then rotation here, kind of right over Lancaster, maybe just on the north side of Lancaster, Ohio. But those are your two storms, and then obviously large hail with those as well. In that new warning, Newark is now out of the warning. But areas basically between and along I-70 and south of Route 16 are in that warning area. So that is just south of Hanover, Dresden, in Ohio. You're in the warning for Hopewell, Zanesville, Meadow Farm, over towards Adamsville and Norwich. So if you're along I-70 in those areas, please take your tornado precautions. At the very least, this is pretty significant wind coming down the highway here. So probably over 60 mile an hour winds. This is again looking a little higher in the atmosphere, but the heavy rain often brings the high winds down. So where the high winds in the upper atmosphere that we're looking at in the radar are co-located with heavy rain, that will often tap those. So even if you don't get a tornado out of this, you're going to be in for rain and hail and just not a very good time to travel along I-70. So that's your radar indicated storm there. Taking a closer peek here at this one over by Lancaster. Rotation just kind of over Lancaster, maybe just on that northern side of Lancaster. So if you're in Lancaster, Bremen, over to West Rushville, you're kind of in that tornado warning there. Hail and rain certainly possible north of that tornado warning. They keep tightening it up a little bit. So yeah, I guess they're saying it's right over Lancaster, and then the overall severe thunderstorm warning has a tornado possible tag. Maybe for the broad rotation up along 37. So this whole area, take shelter. Yeah, they've warned ahead of the line for tornado possible, hail of 1 inch in diameter and 60 mile an hour winds. So if you can, treat the tornado possible severe thunderstorm warning like a tornado, and go to the lowest level of your structure, interior room on the lowest level, away from windows, away from temporary structure. So if you're in a mobile home and you can get to your neighbors, especially if you're out here east of the tornado warning in Crooksville or New Lexington, and you have time to go over to your neighbors or go to your family, maybe a good idea to do that. And that would be like a close neighbor. Don't go from like New Lexington over to Newark, otherwise you run the risk of getting into more tornadoes and hail. But if you live in a temporary structure, non-permanent structure, it's just important to make friends with a neighbor that's in a fixed structure. If you're in an apartment and you're on the top floor of your apartment, make friends with your neighbors on the first floor. That's another thing that's a good idea for tornado plans. The storm over here in Newark, again, far from the radar, but decent wind speeds in this. We'll see if it tightens up a little bit. up to 26 alerts overall, 10 severe thunderstorm warnings, and 7 tornado warnings. Also 3 flash flood warnings. A lot of flash flood warnings over in the area over by Cincinnati, and then this current area here has a bunch of flash flood warnings. Muskingum County, and you can kind of see that in that green polygon. Actually a really big, let me bring it over to one radar. A really big flood warning goes from basically Newark, Zanesville, New Lexington, all the way down towards Marietta, New Martinsville, and then that is the West Virginia-Pennsylvania state line. So up to East Liverpool, and then kind of across like this. This whole area has seen heavy rain already. They've seen rounds of storms over the last day or two. And now you have a big cluster of severe thunderstorms with heavy rain, hail, lightning, embedded tornadoes. A new severe thunderstorm warning just popped up within that right there by Ulrichville and Cadiz. But yeah, this whole area is saturated grounds. So if you live in a low-lying area, good to think about those plans too. Increasingly a little more concerned about the tornado potential here near Hopewell, south between Hopewell and Hanover. Again, a little far from the radar site, so it's going to be hard to tell fully, but that area here may be tightening up a little bit. And certainly this area here has pretty high winds. So yeah, this area right here by Hopeville and Hanover, it'd be a rain-wrapped tornado somewhere up in here. We can take a look, and I can see if we see anything on the CC, but that's a messy CC. Probably hail. And actually where the location is of the signature there's actually less of a CC drop. So this is probably just hail and contamination. Yeah, this is, if there is a tornado, it would be a rain-wrapped, hail-wrapped tornado right there north of Hopewell and south of Hanover in Ohio. Checking one of my other products to see. I want to go back down to the next storm down. Still ongoing tornado warning, small area, but in Lancaster, Ohio, and points east. They did extend the warning of the storm in southern Ohio. It's starting to line out a little bit, though. It's producing more of a bow echo shape, which is really indicative of high winds here between Rardon and Piketon and Waverly. These are pretty high winds right in here. We can detail this a little bit and see probably 50-60 mile an hour winds. And like we were just talking about a few minutes ago, this is co-located with some heavy precipitation. That tends to bring those upper level winds down to the ground level. So those can also damage mobile homes and temporary shelters if you're camping out here, or working in a garage sort of thing. If you're ahead of this line here, in addition to a possible tornado, definitely take precautions here towards Piketon. Route 23 US Route 23 is a pretty well-traveled route. If you're driving on this, especially if you're in a high-profile vehicle, Route 23 is a north-south route, and you're going to get hit with winds 50, 60 plus from the west. So that's something to think about as well. One of the reasons why I wanted to come down here too is this whole warning outside of the tornado warning has tornado possible tags. There's some weak rotation points in this line of storms between Vanceburg and West Union and Rardon. I think that's the original tornado warned part there. So if you're along this line, this is another severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible tag. Again, if you can, take those tornado safety precautions in your lowest level, into your room, away from windows, because easily one of these could spin up into a quick spin up tornado. Even if you're not in a particular tornado warning. In general, this is moving towards the Ohio River, Portsmouth, and New Boston in Ohio. And then, yes, a heavy bow echo starting to take shape here between Rardon and Piketon and Waverly. That would continue somewhat in this tornado warned area towards Beaver. If it holds together towards Jackson, Oak Hill, Rio Grande, Wellston. Both of the tornado warnings in eastern Ohio are radar indicated. That one in the northern side still looks like the stronger of the two. Pretty tight little couplet right in this area. Still kind of north of Hopewell, north of Zanesville, and south and east of Hanover and Frazeysburg. Hopefully saying some of these names somewhat close. But if you hear something that sounds like your town name, check that out. And it's important also to know where your town is located. Not just like where it is on the map, but also like where some of these other towns are. That way, like if you're in Zanesville, hopefully you kind of have an idea of where Hanover and Hopewell are. That way you can kind of gauge yourself on where this storm would be. But yeah, it's up 146 between Hanover, Hopewell, and Zanesville. And this, again, would be a rain-wrapped tornado. Maybe a little closer towards Cottage Hill, Irville. Right up in that area. Still has a tornado warning expiring in 18 minutes. I guess more precisely is 7 miles southeast of Hanover or 10 miles west of Zanesville, moving east at 35. So a bit slower of a storm than we saw earlier. They've now dropped the tornado warning for the Lancaster, Ohio area. Still some broad rotation, a tornado possible tag on that storm between Lancaster, Baltimore, Crooksville, and New Lexington. And south of I-70 is that severe thunderstorm warning for tornado possible. Tornado warnings now have dropped down to 3, so that's a good sign there. All right now are radar indicated. So that's good. One tornado warning in Virginia in Wise County. One warning that we just looked at in Muskingum County. That is in Ohio, west of Zanesville. And then Scioto and Pike County in Ohio. And that is that bow echo and tornado possible features down in southern Ohio. They've just now condensed this warning a little bit. And seeing now some really strong bow echo feature. Piketon, Wakefield. So still tornado warned. And there could be some rotation along the leading edge of this um, developing bow echo. So if you're anywhere from Wakefield, Piketon, over to Beaver and Stockdale, you're in a tornado warning for Wakefield, Stockdale, and Beaver. But this whole area from just the south side of Waverly to the Wakefield and Stockdale area, that is going to be a big threat for damaging winds. This whole area is generally headed towards Beaver, Jackson in Ohio, and the Route 35 Ohio corridor in Ohio. So you're out of a warning right now, but if you have interests in the Beaver to Jackson area, just know that you're likely going to get possibly a tornado warned storm, but also a heavy storm for wind and hail. And yeah, still some features down here that are warned for severe thunderstorm but tornado possible. Just with these features down here by Blue Creek and Otway. Again, this whole line could have some spin-ups, so they're appropriately warning basically all the severe thunderstorm warning in this line for tornado possible, as well as those areas up by Newark and east. They dropped the warning in Wise, Virginia, so that's a good sign there. But if you look at these severe thunderstorm warnings, a lot of them are tornado possible, like we were just talking about, as well as ones down into Kentucky. They also have tornado possible tags. Almost every severe thunderstorm warning has a tornado possible tag right now. This one in eastern Ohio does not, but it's a hail core that's popped up between Rush and Deersville, north of Route 22, south of Route 250. And that's lifting north and east towards Cadiz, Hopedale, maybe up towards the Carlton area in eastern Ohio. And then still strong rotation, but broad and away from the radar, so we don't get a great look at it. But north of Zanesville, between Zanesville, Hopewell, Hanover, and Frazeysburg, along Route 146, between that Frazeysburg area and Zanesville and I-70, I would avoid that for a little while. Over towards Route 666, I'm not making that one up. 93, Route 93 up through Adamsville. This is all in a tornado warning. Sonora and Norwich. Basically Zanesville and along I-70 north to about Route 16. This whole area, you need to take your tornado precautions. Strong wind, hail, and a possible tornado. They've now reissued the tornado warning for that storm coming out of Lancaster, Ohio, so it's for northern Perry County. And it is radar indicated still. I was just checking to see. Looks like maybe the rotation picked up a little bit and they re-warned it. It also looks like it may have burst. Rotation picked up and then it's maybe backed off a little bit. But either way, that's a tornado warning. Junction City, Somerset, Crooksville, up to about Fultonham. Need to be in your tornado safe places. West Rushville. And then I want to check down here We have storm development in that new tornado warned area. None of this is tornadic at the moment. None of it actually even has a severe thunderstorm warning. But this area around Meridian is worth watching as this area lifts up into central Alabama. We can just quickly look and see if there's not seeing much. What I am seeing is possible hail cores developing, especially these storms here north of Meridian here. These are ones that if the trends continue to increase, could get severe thunderstorm warnings for hail, high winds, and then we'll have to watch for any tornadoes as well. But yeah, probably some meaningful hail, nickel-sized hail is what it's warned for. And then up towards the Birmingham area, not much right now in the Birmingham area, but let's see. But there are storms, again, back Meridian to Tuscaloosa, and then some storm development between Birmingham, Selma, and Montgomery in Alabama. Nothing severe, just general thunderstorms right now. But we can take a look, and some of these are starting to rotate a little bit. Let's put on the dual screen and just see the side-by-sides with these. So there is some rotation. Nothing warned right now, but definitely have to watch. They're in a tornado watch area, but there's some rotation weak and broad south of Alexander City, and a little tighter rotation actually is right along 65 north of Deatsville. This is north of Montgomery, between Birmingham and Montgomery. Let's move a little. More specifically between Clanton and Deatsville. This is an embedded supercell. You can kind of see it here. It has a bit of a hook feature embedded in the rain that extends kind of down to that I-65 area. So we're somewhat kind of like this. But a little bit of broad rotation. Less broad, but a weak rotation signature. That's one to watch. We can zoom in on it a little bit. Verbena, Cooper, Mountain Creek. That one's a heavy cell. And then, yeah, a little broad rotation around Alexander City. So we'll have to watch these in Alabama for sure. Huntsville area seems to be quiet. There's some storms building back towards Corinth and Mississippi. Those will move into northern Alabama. Nashville has been spared by a lot of the worst of it. They do have a line of storms that is now coming into the Nashville area. Nothing severe warned. There is a special weather statement for some storms west of Nashville. Checking the line as I go. That one is a little bit of a notch in the line near I-65 Shackle Island area. That one would be one to watch. But nothing warned yet. And what the weather services are looking at is trends. So they'll watch that trend of the radar over, you know, at least a few to many of the radar scans. We're hopping around, so we're not kind of locally looked into one storm like the weather service would be. We'll see. That one has a little potential But then this line continues: strong storms, some severe warned. The one up here in southern Kentucky has a tornado possible tag for heavy storms around Tompkinsville, Fountain Run, over towards Burkesville, Summer Shade. Some strong storms up that way. Another strong storm with tornado possible near Danville, Kentucky. Again, far from the radar site. More specifically towards Stanford and Jumbo. This also has some big hail. Yeah, it's warned for 1-inch hail and tornado possible near the Stanford area in Kentucky. More general strong thunderstorms up towards Frankfort, Lexington, Louisville now in the clear. And then strong storms along the Ohio River. Let's look at this one again. Back into Maysville, Manchester, West Union. This is a special weather statement for probably hail. Looks like that area by Manchester, in particular, west of Manchester along 41, that has some good sized hail up in here. This area right up in here. We'll see that if that holds together, that may get a severe thunderstorm warning for some larger hail. And then still tornado features to watch out here. This storm near Beaver has really wrapped up into quite the bow echo. It has a tornado possible tag, but more impressive is the bowing feature here. And yeah, it's still showing 60. Ooh, what was that one? It's still showing 50, 60. Thought I saw like a 65, but maybe I saw a 62 mile an hour wind. Large hail probably too. Those purples are really indicating some decent hail up in here. Right over Beaver. Beaver's getting hit hard right now. Jackson, you're next in line for this storm. And Route 35 corridor from Jackson. See if we can zoom in. Londonderry, Ratcliffeburg, Ray, Beyer, Sharon, Limerick, Oakland, Lynn in Ohio right now is under the gun. So that is a significant storm. And then now we have a tornado warning for one of those areas. This whole line was being warned for tornado possible. There are some rotation points in the line. This one has now become the stronger rotation point, and it's down here closer to the Ohio River, closer to Fort Smith, Ohio. This whole line is approaching the Route 23 corridor. So like earlier, if you're on Route 23 between Piketon and Portsmouth in Ohio, I would just hold off on that. Let this line clear through. Let it get through, and then you can continue your journey. They're moving. The storms today are moving pretty quickly. And I can check here what's this listed for. It's moving at 50 miles an hour. So if you just let it go, they're going close to highway speed, and then you can continue your journey. But a delay in your travels for a few minutes is worth a lot more than getting caught up in a hail and tornado and mess. So putting a little more towns in this path here, you're less than 5 minutes to Coles Park. Rosemount, less than 10 minutes. Then about 10 minutes, Twin Valley, Eden Park, Rubyville. This is all in Ohio, north of Portsmouth, Ohio. Tornado warned storm, radar indicated. A decently tight signature there. Right there, kind of northwest of Portsmouth. And north of the Ohio River. if you're in that area too, this is not one and done. Just kind of looking at things a little further. What is this storm? This is a special weather statement for a 45-mile-an-hour storm. It's moving east at 45. I'll kind of just put it from about here. So Portsmouth, if the storm that's to the north of you, the tornadic storm, is likely going to go north of downtown Portsmouth in about, let's see if we can find it here, in about a half hour, 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, you're going to get hit with another storm that has a potential for hail, high winds, heavy rain, lots of lightning. So, and then if you're in your tornado safe space, just know that it's not just going to be clear and bright evening here if you get out of that. Whoops. We can double check this and just see if it's again kind of far from the radar site, but broad rotation, not looking as strong as it did a few minutes ago. The storm to the north may be wrapping up a little bit. It's a bow echo from Beaver to just west of Jackson, but it's got a calm ahead, and you can always sometimes get rotation that ramps up right in this area between Lynn, Limerick, and Oakland. Not tornado warned at the moment, but that area is worth watching, especially if it increases a little bit. Savageville, Limerick, now just kind of east of Lynn. So yeah, and again, getting close to the I-35 or Route 35 corridor near Jackson, Sharon, Oakland, Savageville. That is a nasty storm. Hail, high winds with that one, and tornado possible tag. The Weather Service is doing a good job tonight. It's a busy night for them too. So they're doing a good job at warning a lot of these storms for tornado possibles. Let's get back up to this mess. We're still along I-70 and north of Zanesville have a tornado warning still for this rotation area. Basically north of Zanesville between I-70 and Route 16. Oh, that's Ohio Route 16, and this is I-70 down here. So rotation north of Zanesville. Tornado warning for New Concord, Center, Cambridge, Kimballton, Adamsville. You're going to be in more of the direct line of this rotation. Maybe eventually over to Birmingham, Ohio, and Middleburn. That's getting into a hilly part of Ohio too, so you're not going to... Part of Ohio is pretty flat up towards Lake Erie and north and west of Columbus. But then once you get east and south of Columbus, it gets pretty hilly. You get into more of the Appalachian Plateau and the hills and hollers down along the Ohio River. So, yeah, that's some tricky territory there. This whole cluster of rain, wind, severe storms, hail, and potential tornadoes is generally moving towards the Panhandle of West Virginia, so the Wheeling area, as well as in general the Pittsburgh area. Pittsburgh is under a tornado watch. We'll see if the tornado potential continues that far north and east, but at the very least, it's going to be a rockin' and rollin' night in the Pittsburgh area for training thunderstorms with heavy rain, hail, high winds, potential spin-up tornadoes. So not a fun night. And if you're planning on traveling between Columbus and Pittsburgh, or Columbus and Wheeling, that is a messy, messy trip. 15 alerts right now. Let's see. 3 tornado warnings. The Scioto County down by Portsmouth. The Muskingum Conshohocken County one. That's the one over by Zanesville that we just went over, and now a newer tornado warning for that. I believe this was another tornado possible tag storm. It's now going through Harlan again. So Harlan, this area along 119 already had a tornado warn storm, already had a hailstorm, and now we're back under the gun with another storm lifting up and a tornado possible. Radar indicated tornado moving northeast at 55 miles an hour. It's located over Walton's Creek or near Harlan. And that's for northwestern Harlan and southeastern Leslie counties in Kentucky. Pretty far from the radar site, but there is some rotation there, and it does have that look to it. So between those things and the tornado parameters, the look of the storm in general, and then some rotation that we see broad, far from the radar site, that's worth a warning. And similar to the other storm, this is riding maybe slightly north and west of that previous storm. So the rotation and the hail look to be pretty close to 119 towards Harlan, Nolensburg, Everts. Also in the warning are Helton and Big Laurel in Kentucky. Yeah, take your shelters, hunker down. That area is an area that doesn't see as many tornadoes as say western parts of Kentucky and Tennessee do. So that is an area that if you have someone that is in that area, definitely give them a call or text and let them know that they have a tornado warned storm coming into their area. And I would say that's a good bet up in this area too. This area, Cambridge, Zanesville, over towards Wheeling, I-77 is in this tornado warning, as well as Kimballton, Mantua, Center in Ohio, Norwich, and just east of Adamsville. This area doesn't get a ton of tornadoes either, so if you know someone in the Cambridge, Ohio area, it may be good to give them a call and let them know there is a tornado warned storm, and it's radar indicated, but you never know. And again, a little bit of a radar hole. So it'd be basically just this area east of Adamsville out on Route 93. And you can see it's got that kidney bean kind of shape. It's messy, and it's in rain and storms around it. So it's not the textbook looking storm, but there's a bit of rotation and a bit of a supercell that's tucked up in there. We'll see if they continue that warning or not. Good news is the storm down in southern Ohio over the Portsmouth area has weakened, and it's not listed as tornado warned. Still maybe a little bit of broad rotation north of 23, north of Portsmouth, but nothing too concerning there. The storms near Jackson and Wellston are not tornado warned at the moment, but they definitely have severe wind potential. Coming right up along Route 35, north and west of Jackson up towards Wellston, and eventually towards MacArthur. This whole area is actually severe thunderstorm warned. So it's good because this is a pretty nasty storm. It does have a tornado possible tag still to it. It was that comma head that originally had the tornado that is still kind of broadly rotating, but not to the area that we would need a tornado warning at the moment. Still watch that one down by Portsmouth. That could pick back up. And then that area, West Union down to Maysville, is getting hit quite hard right now with another round of storms, rain, hail, all that. So we're down to just a couple tornado warnings, which is a good thing. We can regroup a bit, take a little bit of a tour. The storms down in the southern tornado watch are still non-tornadic and below severe thresholds. If I had to single one out, it would be this one here on I-20 north and east of Livingston, Alabama. That one looks like it could have some hail in it. You can see the bright reds and a little bit of purple down in here, south of Utah and Bology. Maybe a bit of a hail core developing there. That is one to watch. We had some light rotation earlier on a couple of these cells that are in kind of central Alabama. There is one. This is that one that was between Deatsville and Clanton, and it still has some rotation to it. You have winds going away and towards the radar. It's a bit of a shear line at the moment. It's worth watching. It's not anything imminent, but if its rear flank downdraft can push out air down the bottom, that's how you get more of that wrap, and then that creates that tighter rotation couplet. So it's not doing that at the moment, but something that I'm sure the Weather Service is watching. At the very least, it'd be a little bit higher winds right in that area. And then another station over by Alexander City. Not much doing there as far as tornadic potential, but that one could be picking up in hail as well between Alexander City and New Site in Alabama. Those are kind of in the east central Alabama. North of Tuscaloosa, some heavier cells, and then south between Livingston, Utah, and Demopolis. That storm is maybe the... If I had to pick one that would go to a severe thunderstorm warning, it'd probably be that one next. But we'll see. Nashville, I know there's a big hockey game in Nashville this evening, so it's not looking like a fun night to walk around Nashville. None of these storms right now are severe warned, so just gusty winds, maybe some small hail. Still that one on the north side of Nashville is worth watching. A bit of a dog leg here, so you do have to watch inflow. Just kind of looking at it a little closer here. There's not much inflow here, at least on the velocity, but you do have to watch features like this in lines of thunderstorms, because again, kind of like that one in Alabama that we saw, if it tightens up and pushes out at the same time, that's what creates a possible tornado that would be in somewhere in that area. It's not doing that at the moment. But that would be an area to watch south and east of Grable or Grable, and maybe west and headed towards the area of Bethpage. Could eventually, these tend to travel, these little features tend to travel kind of like this, even if the line is moving more east. So somewhere in that area, Grable or Grable, Bethpage, Bransford, and Westmoreland need to pay attention, but so far nothing imminent. So luckily the models didn't quite verify the giant tornado outbreak that they looked like they might a few days ago. The models were pretty scary with like a whole line of supercells from Lima area all the way down through Dayton, Cincinnati, Louisville. Luckily that hasn't come fully realized. The earlier storms that came through in the morning and mid-morning didn't quite clear out as cleanly as the models had them doing, so the instability didn't build back in as much as it could have. Originally, the models were showing significant tornado parameters, especially in that area from Louisville up to Cincinnati, Dayton, that northern Kentucky, eastern, um, southeastern Indiana, and western Ohio area. So luckily that hasn't panned out. It doesn't mean that these storms can't do that. And right now we still have 2 tornado warnings, both radar indicated. One out in Ohio, and we'll check that one. That one is still in that same area. Kind of that area north of Cambridge. Let's let the velocities load in, and yeah, it's that area closer to Mantua and south of the Plainfield area and Marquand Mills area of Ohio. That one is rotation kind of up in this area. We're getting far from the radar site, so that's a tricky one to pinpoint. But if you're in this warning, please take it seriously. It would be rain wrapped, and you've already had rounds of storms go through the area along 77, like Cambridge and Center. Well, you're going to get another big round of tornadic possibility storms. So that is a nasty group of storms all the way non-severe now up towards Steubenville, Hopedale, probably some hail in this line over towards New Philadelphia and Goshen in Ohio. Eventually, we'll see this whole cluster move into the Pittsburgh area. So other than that storm in Ohio, still a tornado warned storm in southeast Kentucky. And it's for this small storm now north of Harlan towards Nolensburg and Big Laurel. It's gonna have hail in it too. And let's see what they're saying about it. Still just radar indicated. Yeah, we've had a lot of storms that are tornado warned and far from the radar site. Some days, the storm, like yesterday in St. Louis, the storm was tornado warned in Chesterfield, Missouri, and it was right near the radar site. It was actually near the St. Louis International Airport radar, as well as the National Weather Service radar in the St. Louis area. So you got some neat looks at the storm from fairly low altitudes. But yeah, this storm here is definitely tornadic potential here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and reset the stream a little bit. So I'll start a new stream in a few minutes. But while we have a little bit of a lull in the tornado coverage, this storm is far out in the hills, and we're not going to get much ground truth via radar, actually to both of these probably. While we have a bit of a lull, I'm going to take a few minute break, grab some food here, and just and refill the water bottle, and then we'll come back because the potential for tornadoes actually increases in the southern part of this risk area later in the evening. Again, nothing really going on much in Alabama now, but you're under tornado watch, and storms are slowly organizing, especially in this area from Meridian over towards Montgomery and south of Birmingham. But the models show more storms organizing and forming in that area as we get further into the evening. Also, we'll keep an eye on this line of storms that's going through Nashville right now and see if there's any spin ups in those. Most of this area in Kentucky around the Lexington area looks like general thunderstorms. Um, and then it gets a little more severe storms with some tornado potential up here in eastern Ohio. But yeah, we'll take a quick break and then we'll reset the stream. Make sure my streaming is working again, and then we'll kind of come back and focus in a little more on the southern mode of tonight's severe weather threat.